Jennifer Griffin, National Security Correspondent for the Fox News Channel, and I welcome you to this discussion on the Wounded Warrior Experience, honoring the sacrifices of our military men and women of today's generation. This broadcast is produced by the American Veterans Center and is filmed on location at the United States Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C. It is made possible with the support of the University of Phoenix and Military Order of the Purple Heart Service Foundation, along with additional support from Saab North America, Northrop Grumman, Amtrak, Geico, The Hill, Military Times, Defense News, American Airlines, the official airline of the Wounded Warrior Experience, and the Washington Examiner, official newspaper of the Wounded Warrior Experience. In this discussion, we'll be exploring the experience of several extraordinary Americans in combat, the nature of their injuries, their rehabilitation experiences, and their remarkable resilience and courage they displayed in overcoming the obstacles and forging a bright future. In our first segment, we will be talking to four incredible men who, through their service and struggles, have each become an inspiration to many. First, I have on my left, I have Sergeant Rick Yarosh, who, and here we have Amos. Most importantly, we have Amos. Rick was a U.S. Army cavalry scout. He was wounded in Iraq near Abu Ghraib when his Bradley fighting vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb, IED, caught fire. Rick was burned over 60% of his body. We'll talk more about that. Sergeant Rob Jones, U.S. Marine Corps, lost his legs to an IED blast serving in Afghanistan. He's now a Paralympian rower. And he was at the Paralympics in London not too long ago, just this summer. Staff Sergeant Charles Eggleston, U.S. Army, severely wounded by an IED while serving in Iraq. He has gone on to be an advocate for wounded warriors. Staff Sergeant Eggleston, thank you for being here tonight. And Major Justin Constantine, an old friend, Marine Corps officer. Now he's working as a lawyer for the FBI. He is a representative of the Wounded Warrior Project. And back in 2006 in Habbaniyah, Iraq, a sniper bullet pierced his skull and his jaw. And Justin's wife, Dahlia, is here. And I believe it's their 4th wedding anniversary. Sergeant Yarosh, let's start with you.
All right.
Tell me what happened.
It was September 1st, 2006, and we were doing a patrol, and we were the 5th vehicle in the convoy, and the 5th vehicle looks backwards, so all we could see was dust that we were kicking up from the Bradley. So we did a short halt, and we decided to move up to the 4th vehicle. And when we moved up, about 2 minutes later, we were hit with an IED. And as soon as we hit the IED, the whole crew was engulfed in flames. It was me, Sergeant Montez, who was the Bradley commander. I was the gunner, and then Specialist Lowe was our driver. And I got out of the hatch, out of the top, and I knew I had to get off the vehicle. And when I jumped off the vehicle, I couldn't see because my face was on fire, and I landed, and I broke my leg, severing the artery in my leg, and they ended up amputating my leg 7 days later. So I actually laid on the ground looking at the sky because I had rolled around and I hadn't put the fire out because of the grass, the dead grass and the sand that I was rolling in. So I gave up, and somebody wasn't ready to take me because I ended up rolling one way and there was a canal. And I had no idea the canal was there. The canal put the fire out, and 2 guys came down, Sergeant Anthony Vanetz and Sergeant Saul Jackson, came out and picked me out of the canal. And not long ago, it's sad to say, Sergeant Vanetz passed away in Afghanistan, and also my Bradley commander, Sergeant Montez, passed away 7 days later after that incident.
What was your first memory after being injured?
I have a lot of strange memories. Honestly, I call it my own reality because of all the stuff I was on and the things that were going through my head at the time were very odd. But my real first memory was actually asking my parents how I was going to pay for the bill. I had no clue that it was covered. I really didn't.
I hope they didn't make you pay.
They didn't make me pay. They didn't make me pay. But, one of the memories I remembered a lot of at the beginning especially was, knowing where I was, knowing my family was there for me 100%. I don't think they missed 1 minute of visiting time that they were allowed to be there. So that's the one thing I remember most about being in the hospital, is them being there for me.
What was the hardest moment for you? Was there ever a low moment where you didn't think you could go on?
At the beginning, you know, it was tough because I saw these 4 white walls every single day, and I mean, really the future, I didn't see the future. I couldn't see the future. So with those walls there, you know, I was depressed. I was anxious. I needed to get out, and the doctors actually saw that at a point, and I still had some issues physically, but they were like, we need to get you out of here. And as soon as they got me out, I won't say 100%, but I was well on my way to 100%.
How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for 6 months, 3.5 in ICU and 2.5 in the step-down unit.
If you had it to do over again and had advice for anybody who was in that situation, what did you learn?
It's not so much what I learned, but it's the fact that I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't. People ask me all the time, they're like, what would you take back if you could? I want my friend back, you know, I want Sergeant Montez back. But other than that, I wouldn't change anything. They say, well, you don't miss your hands? Of course I miss my hands. But, you know, the things that I've gained through losing my hands is quite unbelievable. And I've lost a lot of things, but I've gained so much more than what I've lost. And that's the most important thing to understand, is that you can make these differences and make these changes as they come.
Tell me about Amos.
I got Amos about 2 months ago. He's a Christmas dog, actually. He was born December 25th, 2010. And I got him, he was trained in a prison. I got him through a program called Puppies Behind Bars. And he was trained by a prisoner for 18 months. And it's amazing what the dog does for the prisoner as well. I mean, it's rehabilitation for them as well. It's really an amazing program. And he's such a good boy. He's my buddy. He's my travel companion.
So what does he do for you?
But I mean, mostly what he does for me is he can pick stuff up for me, and when I drop him, because I drop stuff all the time, and he can pick them up way better than I can. It's still funny though, because everything's a toy to him. So I drop my credit card on the ground. He'll kick it around for a while before he picks it up. Yeah. He's still training me.
Has he used the card?
No, he has not used the card yet.
Sergeant Rob Jones, tell me about, first of all, walk us through what happened to you that day.
We were clearing through these tree lines with line charges, and we sat down to rest, and we got up and somebody else stepped on an IED. Luckily for him, it was a low order detonation. It was just a blasting cap, so nobody was hurt, no big deal. But when that happens, my job as a combat engineer is to clear that area of secondaries, tertiaries, and get everybody through without getting injured. And I was just in the process of doing that, and missed the secondary.
What do you remember from that moment?
I was about unconscious for about 20 seconds. I woke up, and obviously I was in a lot of pain, so I was screaming. But it wasn't a voluntary type of thing. It was kind of a disconnect between mind and body. Body was reacting to the trauma, and my mind was just kind of separated. Some guys eventually came over and put tourniquets on my legs, talked to me, calmed me down. Eventually a corpsman got over to me, gave me some morphine. They eventually gave me something else that put me unconscious.
When you woke up and you saw that your legs weren't there, what went through your head?
Well, I didn't look at the time because I knew already. You know, I checked the other vitals like my hands. I looked at that. I felt down below the belt, make sure everything was ordered down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are my two, because I knew that was. I knew my legs were pretty messed up, so I asked if I was above or below the knee, and they said below. But obviously, from infections and that kind of thing, they eventually had to amputate above.
How long were you in the hospital?
I was an inpatient at Bethesda Naval Hospital for a month, and then transferred to Walter Reed. I was inpatient there for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. So that was just because they didn't have enough rooms in the outpatient. And then I moved to outpatient after about a month over there in Walter Reed.
And then what was the hardest part for you in terms of learning to use your new legs?
It takes a lot of practice. I think the hardest part was finally not depending on a cane or a wheelchair, because I was in a wheelchair for 4 or 5 months, and eventually I had to just get over that fear of falling or whatever it was and just start walking everywhere, and then get rid of those canes too, because that's the only way that you can really.
So when did you decide to become an Olympic rower?
I decided I wanted to pick up a new sport pretty much immediately, because sports were kind of a big part of my life, working out, that kind of stuff. That's why I just decided I would try rowing, but I wasn't able to learn that until March of the next year, so March 2011. And I figured if I'm going to try and compete at this, I might as well go for the top tier. And there's nothing more top than the Olympics or the Paralympics in whatever sport you're in. So
What's next for you?
I'm going to keep rowing for the next year, and then over the course of the next year, I'm going to plan my cross-country bike trip, and I think I'm going to be the first double above knee to ride an upright cycle across the country. So I'm going to see if I can do that.
Great. Staff Sergeant Charles Eggleston, U.S. Army, served in Mosul, Iraq, 2005, IED, severely wounded, and now serves as a representative of the Military Order of the Purple Heart and president and CEO of 3-7 Consulting. Now you, Staff Sergeant Eggleston, were at Walter Reed right at the time when the scandal was breaking in 2007. What was happening then, and what's it like now?
What was happening then is it was what I look at as the great disconnect. It's not my family member. It's not my kid. It's not my loved one. Who cares? Let's let it fall as the chips may fall. And we was basically pushed away, and we're so used to that in the Army community, because we're grunts and we live in substandard shacks, not like the Air Force, they have maids. So when I wake up in a bed and I see dirt and stuff all on the floor and dirt all on the ceiling and side of the walls, I just think, hey, that's normal. But in my condition, I don't think I can really get up and move around and sweep it. A couple months later, found out it was black mold and fungus. Richard Willett really didn't help me too much. He gave me some infections that they had to basically end up cutting out throughout other surgeries. That you wonder why you lose so much weight. It's because you're losing body tissue as well. Now, the politics got into that. Believe it or not, the way it was set up then at Walter Reed, when we was in the T2 building, what I call the true Wounded Warriors, because Wounded Warriors was guided by guys who knew how to take care of Wounded Warriors. Now, with the new system, you could be a transportation officer, you can be a flight officer, whatever. You don't, and you can't interpret the logo or the lingo of the medical when the docs are talking down to the cadre and case managers. So the great disconnect, as I see now with the new Walter Reed and the new centers that's popping up because of the BRAC, is because they did a combined force. That combined force ain't playing happy. And the guys who's getting hurt again, all over again, is the Wounded Warrior populace. We should have some aggressive way of looking at this program and saying, hey, let's monitor each one of these wounded warriors, these wounded veterans. Let's take it from the DOD through the VA. And my advice to all the wounded warriors that's coming through the system like me, I was too stupid and I didn't have the right guys around me. You need to fall back on these Vietnam guys who gave me the correct vices, who gave me the correct energies, and they showed number love and empathy. All right, that's what we lack in this monitor, and that's what we lacked in this program. Very few have empathy for the wounded veteran or the wounded warrior himself.
Thank you. Thank you. Major Justin Constantine, U.S. Marine Corps. You're working for the FBI right now as a lawyer. You're a lawyer by training. You were in Anbar Province as part of a civil affairs team leader in 2006 when you were injured. Justin, what would you say? First of all, take me back to that day. What happened? What do you remember? What was the hardest part for you?
Sure, real quick, I'll tell you that I don't remember that. I remember that morning. I don't remember the attack that day, but people who were there had told me what happened, and there was a reporter with us that day, and he said when we got out of the vehicle and started walking, I said to him, "Hey Jay, you need to move quicker so you don't get shot." He took a big step forward. A split second later, a round came in where his head had been, hit the wall between us. Before I had time to react, the next round came in and hit me behind the ear and came out my mouth. I was still awake apparently and trying to fight. I don't remember any of that, but I do know that the corpsman that day, George Grant, came running over, a young corpsman who put his life on the line for me. And, you know, this kind of story you read about in the book or see in a movie where the sniper is still shooting, he's covered with sweat and all his gear, and performed a perfect emergency tracheotomy on me. And even though my head had, you know, looked like a disaster, I'm sure, performed rescue breathing. He said when he turned me over, I wasn't breathing. And so he brought me back to life, essentially. And all that, talk about courage under fire. So he was a real hero that day. So I always want to make sure I mention George Grant because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him.
Tell me about your wife and how she pulled you through this.
Well, I wouldn't have had this kind of recovery if it weren't for Dahlia, unabashedly. It's been 6 years. I leaned on her really heavily at the beginning, mentally and physically, and still do to this day. And Dahlia was a big part of me identifying that I had post-traumatic stress and encouraged me to get the help that I needed and deserved. And now I go to counseling through the Given Hour Foundation, which is an amazing resource across the country.
What is the Given Hour Foundation?
The Given Hour Foundation is spearheaded by a woman named Dr. Barbara Van Dalen, who has over 6,000 mental health providers who provide free mental health care to wounded warriors and their family members. And they're very flexible with your schedule. Of course, it's all free, and it's called Given Hour because private providers are giving an hour of their time. And I look forward to my counseling sessions. I go twice a month, completely beneficial. I think it takes more strength to put your hand up and say, I need help, than it does to try to power through on your own. Because you just can't, all the issues that we all face, well, most of us, you know, they can be overwhelming at times. And so if you can go in and talk to someone, an objective third party who's a professional, you're going to go a long way with that. I know I have.
What would you say to people out there who do come across wounded warriors? Is there any wrong thing to say? Is there a right way to act? I mean, I think this is something our society has to kind of confront.
Jennifer, it's a good question. I know it can be very awkward. I know everyone has a huge heart in America, and people want to help, but they don't know what to say because you don't want to walk up to someone for obvious reasons. So I know it's difficult. Don't ask them if they killed anybody. Don't ask them, you know, don't do that. If they want to tell you that, they will. But don't do that. And you know, a good way to start is say thank you for your service. It's kind of cliche, but it means a lot. You know, and it kind of opens the door. If someone says to me, and I'll say thank you, or maybe I'll feel like I want to tell them a little bit more. If they say, oh, where'd you serve? I'll tell them that, and then it opens the door for me to take a step. But I know they're taking a small step, and that means a lot to me, because I know how awkward it can be. I know it can be uncomfortable. But just seeing that people are trying to make an effort means a lot to me.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. You're amazing, and you're inspirational, and we're so grateful for you sharing your stories here today.
Thank you.
When we return, we will discuss the unseen wounds experienced by many service members and the resources available to them. More from the Wounded Warrior Experience coming up. And now a special message from our presenting sponsor, Military Order of the Purple Heart Service Foundation.
Throughout the history of this great nation, men and women of courage and valor have sacrificed to provide the security of those they love. George Washington understood the importance of recognizing that courage, and the Purple Heart was born, a symbol of sacrifice and heroism, and a tribute to those who have given their all for freedom. For 50 years, the Military Order of the Purple Heart and the Purple Heart Service Foundation have channeled that same heroism and courage into helping all veterans and their families. With a national service program to assist veterans with VA claims assistance, providing grants for disabled veterans, leading the way in research and treatment initiatives for traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress, along with many other forms of assistance to help our men and women in uniform transition to civilian life. The Purple Heart Service Foundation has been there. Tomorrow's challenges are great. The obstacles are many, the threats real. The men and women who serve today will need our support tomorrow, and we will be there for the next 50 years and beyond. Please join us in helping those who protect our freedom. The next generation of heroes would like to thank you in advance.
Thank you for serving our nation so honorably. It's why we're dedicated to making a difference in the future of our military's veteran community and supporting them with the tools and resources they need to help them succeed every step of the way. It's our honor to serve those who have served our country.